Not steady. stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Mary, would you do roll call, please?
Mayor Nicholson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Zerk.
Here.
Espinoza.
Here.
Martinez.
Here.
Smith. Here. Wells. Here.
Okay, we have a quorum here tonight. We'll start out with the public hearing. The first item is the ordinance amending Rawlins Municipal Code 19.40.050, the fences. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on that? Okay. Now we'll move on down to item B, transfer of ownership, retail liquor license number 93 from Cappy's Incorporated to Cappy's J&K Incorporated, doing business as Cappy's Restaurant. Is there anybody that would like to speak on that?
Mayor and Council, application to transfer the liquor license number 93 from Cappy's Incorporated to Cappy's J&K Incorporated, doing business as Cappy's Restaurant, was filed on October 7th. The notice was published in the Providence Times on October 10th and 14th, posted at the place of business and posted on the city website, and the Wyoming Liquor Division has determined the application complete.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry. Is there anybody else from the citizens that would like to speak on that? Okay. Now we'll move on down to citizens participation. And this is the time that anybody in the audience has up to 5 minutes to speak about something that is not on the agenda tonight. If you're here for the RV ordinance, you guys will be able to speak about that when we actually have the motion. If there's anybody that would like to come up and speak about something, please do.
Actually, I just have one question that maybe if you guys could email me or answer, and maybe this is revealing my age, but I seem to remember in the past, ordinance, I don't know if you would call it a decency ordinance or how it would be worded, where cuss words could not be on signs, could not be part of your license plate. And like I said, I know you get lots of that with just turning on the TV, but I was just wondering if there is anything in the ordinances that does not allow somebody to have a cuss word displayed on their yard or on their house or anything. Like I said, maybe it's an old-fashioned concept. I'm just wondering if there's anything, the ordinances, you all know the ordinances much better than I do, I know they're quite books, so.
Down there, I would have to, or if Amy knows something, I'm not aware of it.
So essentially, we would fall back to the First Amendment, and there's a 3-part test. I'm not prepared to provide that to you tonight, but we can bring it back for the next council meeting and have Chief Palmer there as well.
Okay, perfect. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay. Now we'll move on down to item B, employee of the quarter. Sean, would like to speak up?
I'm not here for this one. Ariel, you want to come on up? Second embarrassing for a minute. Awesome. So each quarter we have an employee of the quarter. And Ariel was nominated, so it's by her peers, and then it's voted on by our department heads. So it's definitely an honor to be able to be the employee of the quarter. And so, if, like I said, I'm going to embarrass you for just a second here. I wanted to read some comments that we heard about Ariel. So Ariel has been working hard to learn and grow in her position. She continues to learn as much as she can from the building official and can do almost all residential inspections with little to no help. She is thorough at her documentation and pays attention to detail. She is courteous to contractors and citizens. She is dedicated in fulfilling her duties. She's a role model to all employees. When she doesn't know something, she finds the answer and always follows through on her responses. recently she completed from start to finish a dangerous building, which was a huge accomplishment. Ariel treats people fairly across the board. She's professional, honest, and hardworking. She's never satisfied with just doing the minimum requirements and is consistently looking to better herself both personally and professionally. She even joined the volunteer fire department to help, as a demonstration of her dedication to the community as a whole. And then this individual said, "I'm very proud of Ariel and how far she's come. When she started with the city, she was a little quiet and timid, and now she's confident and controls situations tactfully and calmly. I feel she is an excellent example of all the things we want in an employee." So, congratulations. And where do you want this?
There we go. Oh.
All right, thank you. Well, congratulations, Ariel. You're well deserving of that. Now we'll move on down to the city council reports. The first item we have is the Board of Adjustments, and that'd be myself, and I have nothing to report on that. The next item is COG, and I have nothing to report on that one. Except for I will just say that our next meeting is in November 13th, I believe it is. Do you remember where that's at?
Third.
Do you, Amy? I don't know if I'll can. So I'll have that for you at the next council meeting. Go ahead, Mark.
I attended the last COG meeting. COG voted to send a delegate to Cheyenne to work on this tax on the wind energy. Should be sometime in November.
Okay.
It's a revenue.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Then we'll move on down to item C, the DDA Main Street, Councilwoman Smith.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. There's a number of events coming forward that are going to be fun, so I'd like to just kind of tell everybody about those. Trick and Treat in Downtown Street starts Friday, October 30th from 3 to 5. Holiday events coming is Shop Downtown, Win Big. It starts November 22nd and goes through December 19th. You have 3 chances to win $250 in Main Street dollars on December 5th, 12th, and 19th. And then on the 27th of November, we have Black Friday, which we've renamed Blue Flag Friday. The small business events are on Saturday, November 28th. Cyber Monday is November 30th. And Winterfest, and I've got some really fun things that are being put together for Winterfest. And that's December 11th and 12th. And so stay tuned, come down and enjoy the events and join all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. And then move on down to item E, Urban Systems, Councilman Singer. Oh, sorry, I skipped one, apologize. Planning and Zoning Commission, Councilman Espinoza.
I hope you guys can hear me, if not, read my lips. Our September 8th meeting was canceled, and that was because all the publication was not printed. We had a special meeting called for September 22nd, and that was on PC 20-0801. Preliminary residential infill application at 801 West Maple. And it was approved by the Rollins Planning Commission contingent on approval of a variance by the Rollins Board of Adjustments. Title 16 amendment, the options are under discussion still. And the Rollins Planning Commission reviewed the Rollins Master Plan and recommended no changes. our October 8th meeting had no business. So our next meeting will be November 10th.
Thank you. Now we'll move on down to item E, urban systems, Councilman Sanger.
I don't have anything to report for the system, but we will be having a meeting Wednesday, December 9th at 12 o'clock. Here, downstairs.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Now we'll move on down to number 5, item A, to approve the minutes of October 6th, 2020 for the regular meeting. Councilman Martinez.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of October 6th, 2020 as presented.
Councilman Wells, seconds. Okay. Is there any objections to that motion that was made? If not, Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and motion carries with 6 yeas and Mayor Nicholson abstaining.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move on down to correspondence and reports. Item A, the city manager report.
All right, thank you. So with, in the near future here, we will probably have at least a couple new council members. And we talked as a department head this morning, and we wanted to prepare some information for our new council members that will be coming in. We wanted to create an information packet as one item. We also wanted to do an information meeting for them as well with our department heads so that they could ask questions and we can provide them with information. And then also we would like to provide some training, maybe some legal training and different things so that they can feel like they can hit the ground running when they get started. So those are some thoughts that we'd like to do. And I'd also welcome any one of them to come visit with me one-on-one as well. So I want to provide a great experience for our new council members that will come in. And then secondly, we have in just a second, our department heads are going to give their reports, and I just want to thank them for being here, and I am excited to hear what they have to share with all of you. I think this will be a great thing also for the public to be able to hear from our different department heads. I think they do amazing things here, and so I think it's valuable to listen from them on the different projects and things that they're working on. So with that, I will turn the time, well, we can go on to them when you're ready.
Sounds good, thank you, Sean. Is there any questions for Sean? Okay, then we will move on down to the department reports. Looks like we have Chief Paul coming up first.
Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm going to break this down in 3 categories because I have 3 areas. I have the police administration, animal control, and then I also have the 911 dispatch center. So under the police administration, our 2 patrol cars that you guys authorized to give me money for last council meeting, they're finally completed. They're in Casper getting the traffic study and should have them on the road by the end of the month. This month is Halloween Safety Month. And we're going to, the elementary schools are getting all the bags and Halloween information. We're giving presentations to preschools and daycares. For some reason, elementary does not want us to be in there because of COVID, but the other places they are allowing us to give presentations. This is Victims Advocate, are working with COVE for the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this Thursday, October 22nd, is Purple Thursday, War Against Domestic Violence. And then we're concentrating on recruitment. Lieutenant Terry Hooper, along with Stephanie with AHR and Myra with Public Relations, has been really working hard to get us some more applicants for the police department because we're so short-handed. We have 5 new applicants, so hopefully a couple of them will pan out. We'll have some new officers here soon. Under Animal Patrol, October 24th, which is Saturday from 12 to 2, is the adopt-a-thon at the Rochelle Animal Shelter. So come on down, and we're having lots of kittens for adoption and a few dogs. And in the 911 center, I'm just gonna go over the stats for September. We had 596 911 calls, 1,313 telephone calls, 565 dispatch calls for service, 472 other calls, which include bar checks, property watches, business checks, PR, and paper service. There was 24 fire-related calls that were dispatched, 50 ambulance calls that were dispatched, and we had 87 animal-related calls. Do you have any questions for me? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Yeah.
Mayor and Council, we are gearing up in the rec center for the winter time. So we're getting ready for basketball. We are loading up on our precautions for the virus to have people inside. We are asking people to mask up for the basketball games and trying to do some social distancing. So we're hoping that's going to go really well. In the parks, we're pretty much buttoned up from the summer season. We're just finishing that out. We're getting ready for the snow. We're in pretty good shape for that. We're making sure all our equipment's ready to go. Also, the golf course is closed. It closed last Wednesday. I think Robert and Kevin did a really good job out there this year. We are getting ready to cover the greens, so we're shooting for next Tuesday. It's dependent on the weather. It's really difficult to do if the wind is blowing at all, and we know that it's been blowing. So, also we have the gun range is still open. The outdoor range is open for another couple weeks. It'll close on the 31st, and then it'll move into the rec center. The indoor range will open on the 3rd, which is Tuesday. Also, we are Patty and the crew are getting ready for our big Halloween celebration. We're taking that one pretty serious too. We're asking people to remember to pay attention to the health of themselves and others. We want everybody to have a good experience, but we want everybody to be safe too. So, I don't know if you have any questions for me that I can help you with.
Any questions for Dan? Well, thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hello all. So we are doing tons of stuff at Public Works, so I'm just gonna give you guys a quick overview. We are continuing to work with, I guess, some other departments on the FEMA floodplain mapping stuff. I am really excited. You guys will have a work session on the 3rd with Kim Johnson with the state. We are making progress on the Walnut and Edinburgh design, which is funded through the 6 penny project or specific purpose tax. I should have schematics for both of those by the end of this week. Our contractor will be completing the paving on the 2019 water project tomorrow, and we will go into a winter shutdown for that project. The contractor for the streets project will also be completing Delta this week. They will do a small patch on Lambda to hold it over, but it will have to be pushed to next year as well as the other streets. We have an RFP out for engineering on the Springs Rehab project. We are going to try to get some state land and investment board mineral royalties grant funding for that. And get moving on that. And just to kind of refresh your memory, that came from the recently approved source water protection plan that you guys looked at. I think it was in July. I am working on Title 16 amendments with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Once we get those worked out, that'll be coming before you guys, and will probably be nothing as large as 19, but it'll be some changes definitely. And then I did want to let you guys know too, I'm really excited that we're making a lot of really good progress on the vertical expansion of our C&D pit at the landfill. DEQ did just get our revisions, and they had 3 super minor, like delete this word kind of changes. So we'll get those, the public notice out, and hopefully that's looking really good, and I think will be a really huge benefit to the city. But otherwise, if you guys have any questions for me.
Any questions for Daniel? Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, this is gonna be short, just like my time here so far. It's been an interesting ride the last couple of weeks. Throughout the month of October, we have Fire Prevention Week. It's actually a week, activities outside of that, just for time frame, those kind of things. Today, we've contacted 228 kids and 13 adults, most of those being preschool, first grade, kindergarten, and first grade kids. It's a lot of fun with the kids for day at schools. Lots of energy. It's really fun also, as the kids get to that first grade stage, how much they remember. They remember us, those kind of things. So it's a really cool thing for us to go back to those kids. We are currently sitting at 706 calls for the year. That's pretty much right on par with where we've been in past years, those kinds of things. So I'm looking at that, kind of projecting for that year to be about where we've been in that, just under over 900 calls a year. So we're currently working on FCC licensing for our repeater. We're looking at on our Hill Rust, looking at the legal aspects of all that, all the leases, everything cool with those kind of projects. Still working through our new pickup as far as striping and lettering and radios and lights and all those fun logistic things that we get to try to put in our those kind of things. A lot of other projects we're trying to get my head around, my arms around, figure out what's going on, people follow volunteer work, those kind of things. So, with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions? Well, thank you.
I would like to let you know that our finance is looking at updating several old computers and printers. They're getting pretty old, and it's time that we need to take a look at those and get some new ones and proceed with the plan of getting a rotation cycle, getting new ones. With that said, I would primarily like to take this opportunity to discuss with you in brief about what reports you would like and what I can provide for you. I would recommend what I call financial highlights, which I have done before, that is basically a one-page bullet point of things that are going on that you should know about. And so I call that my financial highlights. And then after that would come a report that would have a few columns. You'd have the current month, and then you have a year-to-date month, you have a budget, and then you have a variance amount of what's the difference between the actual and the budget at this point in time. And then the last one is a percentage. At the bottom of the report is a percentage of how much of the year has elapsed. And you can compare that to the other percentages of the variances. And you can kind of get an idea of where things are at. So I recommend that one. And then you should also have a report that shows each bank account, investment accounts, where we have money where and how much. You should have one sheet that has that. And then also reflects, hopefully on the same page, just one page, because I try to limit how much you have to read. So that in mind is you should also know what the fund balances are in each account. And the general fund, keep in mind, is unique. That is the only one that has 5 different categories, and some are restricted by council, can only be undone by council. So if you decide to not do whatever you restricted that money for, it would have to go through a council action in order to undo it. That's a GASB thing. And so what the most important part or category is the unassigned or unrestricted interchangeable words. And that is how much money you can spend. And that's above and beyond the budgeted amount. And then that also, of course, would need a supplemental appropriation or a budget amendment. So those are the reports that I would recommend. And I can also do reports very specific to the council member. If you want to see something a certain way, I can try as far as possible to accommodate that. Just let me know and we'll work it out what you need. So those are what I think would be the primary ones that you would need to have to make prudent decisions. And so I just want to find out, do you think that's what you would like to start with?
Yeah, I think very much so. That would give us a little bit of information that we're not really used to seeing. So
Okay.
I think that would be very good.
Okay, because the idea is to keep it more at a higher level, so it will be more summaries, and then if you needed at some point we could go more into detail, but that way it gives a very good snapshot, easily digestible, and actually works pretty well.
Okay.
So, and if you do decide at any point you want a custom one, just let me know.
Any questions?
Thank
Okay,
you.
we look forward to seeing those at the next council meeting.
Oh, one more thing is, because the first council meeting is too early, we don't get the bank statements to reconcile. So that report will come on the second meeting, hopefully, of each month.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thank you.
I don't remember my other account. I was just gonna say, Linda did it for me, but, actually, I just wanted to make sure, as a municipal authority, I'm not a department, but as a municipal authority, as this, organization, I still wanted to give you guys a feedback of what we've been doing. Probably the biggest thing that really touches all of us in sales tax revenue is the 20+ businesses that the DDA and the Rainbow Teton jointly have worked on in the last 2 months, with them getting Wyoming Business Council grants. So whether it was a mitigation grant or an interruption grant. So we've been very busy with not just downtown businesses, but businesses as a group across the county. We've even had some people in Saratoga call the Rainbow Teton. So we worked on a lot of the Wyoming Business Council grant applications. We've also worked with some of them on their PPP applications. So we've been very instrumental in helping where funding. So that's probably a big thing, because when they succeed and they have business, then we have more sales tax revenue.
Right.
So the other thing I wanted to give you guys an update was the splash pad, the release of the rebid of the splash pad package. And Carl and I discussed with the city engineer, and we are going to go out and plan on having it in front of you to award on December 1st. So we have everything put to bed by the end of the year, so we can rock and roll starting in January. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was our snowflakes, our amazing downtown snowflakes, which are not holiday Christmas decorations, they're seasonal decorations that Sinclair Wyoming Refining has paid for over the years. We are going to retrofit them with quite a few volunteers in the next 3 weeks. So Josh and his crew of Parks and Rec can get ready to hang them the week of the 16th of November. We're going to make sure all the bulbs are the same color, do some TLC care on them. So that'll be about anywhere from 10 to 20 volunteers working on those, getting those ready for the holidays. Any questions?
Go ahead, Louis.
Pam, the old fountain, is it gonna be salvageable?
Or the plan is to sell it, yeah, and to use it as a planter.
As a planter? I just thought maybe it'd go nice in another park or something.
Yeah, we're gonna try to leave it in the park in a different area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Any question?
Any other questions for Pam?
Thank you.
Pam.
Oh, do you have something? I'm actually going to follow up. Sorry. So this is actually part of Pam's report, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that that great sculpture unveiling which took place at 6 o'clock, that was actually a gift to the city as a whole, not just to DDA. And I want to take the time to thank DDA's staff and all of their volunteers, because they worked really hard to get that installed. It's a lot of work to make sure that the insurance is ready, that the sculpture knows where to go. I mean, she would know how many hours it took. So I just wanted to take the time to thank her for that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Good? Okay, well, we appreciate that, Sean. It was nice hearing from all the different departments. We move on down to item C, trick or treat on downtown streets. There'll be a street closure. And we'll be back up to Marcos.
Honorable Mayor and Council. So I think we talked quite a bit about it. It's pretty much what we've done in the past from the street closure, all of Cedar Street between 3rd and 6th, a majority of 5th Street, and part of 4th Street, the same street closure we've had probably for the last 10 years. We have some volunteers stepping up, some other departments that are helping me out in my need right now. And again, I think I explained that we are going to be doing some placing some social distancing. We put it in the advertisement, advertisement that goes to the elementary school kids' backpacks, educating the parents that there will be a neon mark for them to get the candy, and then every 6 feet there'll be additional neon so they can actually line up and wait. All the downtown merchants are planning, even if it's cold or not cold, they're going to do I would say that 99% are giving their candy outside this year. So, any questions on the street closure?
Any questions for Pam? All right, thank you. Now we'll move on down to item 7, approval of the agenda. Councilman Martinez.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented. October 20th, 2020.
Okay, and Lou got a second, so we have a first and a second. Any objections to that motion was made? If not, Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and motion carries with 7 yeas.
Okay. We'll move on down to unfinished business. The first item is an ordinance, third and final reading, amending Rollins Municipal Code 15.28-090. Councilman Singer.
I move to approve on third and final reading and waive the reading of the ordinance amending Rollins Municipal Code 15.28.090, suspension and revocation of the contractor's license as presented.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Any objections to the motion that was made? Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and motion carries with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. Now move on down to item B, an ordinance, second reading, Rollins Municipal Code 10.33.030, trailer park. Councilman Martinez.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we pass on second reading for the Rollins Municipal Code 10.33.030, trailer parking.
Okay. Can I get a second? Councilman Singer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we amend that to waive reading of the ordinance as well?
Pardon me?
Can we amend your first to waive reading of the ordinance as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Singer? Second that, okay. So we'll start out with some comments from staff, and then we'll open it up to citizens.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, after the last meeting, you guys had asked us to look into a little bit of things, and Troy and I are gonna hopefully be able to answer some questions and provide that. So I'm gonna start, I did include all of this stuff on board docs as well so that you can view it, but I did some research to numerous other communities in Wyoming. And I did just a quick summary of those. In Evanston, they limit semi-trailers or 3 or more axles, and then campers, they are limited if they're occupied. If they're unoccupied, they're allowed. Green River is no trailer parking for more than 72 hours for loading and unloading, and that is a year-round. And then their ordinance also specifically says that it will not be towed from one location to another or like moved forward to circumvent that ordinance. I did actually, Ariel helped me out, I had reached out to them and they called back, so she had talked to their police department for me, and it used to be enforced by their code enforcement, but has recently been taken over by the police department. And the chief there said that it's definitely a 50-50 ordinance that they have there, that half of their residents support it, the other half do not. And that they do struggle enforcing it with probably, he said, about the same 10 individuals every year. but it is something that they work through. Do you want me to go through all of these real quick, or just?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't wanna give you too much, I guess. So Rock Springs, it is unlawful for any motor vehicle exceeding 20 feet. And they have trailer loading and unloading for 100 hours is theirs instead of the 72. Laramie allows it directly adjacent to your property only and not more than one. So as long as it's not across the street from you or in front of somebody else's property. Lander is, it was kind of confusing. No trailer parking on city street in excess of 3 days within a 7-day period from Saturday to Sunday. So it's the 3 days per week. Riverton was nothing over 20 feet in length from sunup to sundown except recreational vehicles. Thermopolis was no commercial vehicle, nothing on trailers. Cody, they allow it except for Sheridan Avenue, 12th or 13th. I'm not super familiar, but I'm guessing maybe like a downtown or thoroughway.
Those are their main streets.
Okay, that's what I kind of figured. Gillette, it is unlawful for commercial trailers. Douglas allows one trailer next to the property for not more than 3 days in a 30-day period. And then construction trailers are allowed when there is a building permit that's been pulled and active construction is taking place. I found no restrictions in Jackson. Powell limited to 48 hours on certain streets and any street abutting or surrounding a school property. And then you are allowed to park on your trailer so long as it's the same owner from Memorial Day to Labor Day or with written permission from the property owner. And then it specifically says that they cannot connect to water, sewer, or electrical. And they also have in their ordinance that not more than one trailer per yard is allowed. So if you were to park it up there. Sheridan, Torrington, Worland, no restrictions were found. And then I initially had in here that I was waiting to hear back from Casper. I did hear from them and it is on your agenda as well. They do a permit process, which I think was brought up at the last meeting. So from my understanding from their code enforcement officer is that if you want to park a trailer on the street, you go pay a $25 fee in which is non-refundable. You get the application at that point, which requires you complete the application, and part of that is that you get the neighbors on both sides of you to sign off saying that they're okay with it, and the 3 neighbors across the street sign off saying they're good with it. Once you have the completed application and required signatures, you take that application back and you pay another $25 fee, and you have that permit for 1 calendar year. And then there's a couple ordinances in here. I put Rock Springs, Green River, and Lander, and I specifically did that because they are the ones that restrict it, so you guys could see kind of exactly word for word what they have. If you needed me to pull any others that I provided on that list, I'd be more than happy to.
Okay.
And then,
Do you have any questions for me?
I don't. You guys have any? Louis?
I noticed Cheyenne, it never has been passed, right?
oh yeah, so I don't think I put Cheyenne on here, so.
So it's tried
Okay,
several times,
yes.
but
I must have missed that, I apologize. So yeah, Cheyenne has unsuccessfully reviewed this numerous times, similar to you guys, and it has never passed. However, I did find out that a lot of their new subdivisions are putting covenants in place that do not allow trailer parking in that subdivision. But that is taken care of through the covenant, not through a municipal ordinance or code. Sorry, I completely missed that one.
And my question's for Amy. What would it take to get this on the ballot? What does that look like? So if we wanted to vote on this in an election.
So we would rely heavily on our city clerk to work with the county clerk to get that information. There are statutory deadlines. I don't have those available, but it's definitely something that, you know, we could look into. Thanks. You're welcome.
Councilman Espinoza?
Thank you, Jacqueline, that's an ideal idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading.
Any other questions for the chief and Danielle?
Thank you guys. And if you think of something, we'll be here, so just holler. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Now we'll open it up to the citizens. If somebody would like to come up and speak on behalf of the RV ordinance, please state your name.
Honorable Mayor, Ramon Castillo. I was here for the last reading, and there were some things that were brought up by people who were for the ordinance to be passed. There were some for people who were against it. Some of the complaints that were made. Unauthorized parking in front of the property of another, 1033-170. That's city ordinance. That was one of the complaints of people parking trailers in front of their house or their neighbor's house. There's a city ordinance in effect right now for that. I'm not going to read the whole ordinance unless you'd like me to. I will read it if someone you guys would like to highlight them.
Okay.
Specific to that, it's the whole ordinance. It says that you can't park in front of the property of another for longer than 24 hours without their permission. And if so, you can be towed. I think the city ordinance covers that they can be towed from in front of your property. Storing the vehicle in public space is prohibited. Section 1033-150. Again, it says you can't use the city streets for business. If you have a rental company and you rent cars, you can't use the public streets to promote your business. If you have lawn care, you can't park your trailer in front of your house or someone else's for the promotion of your business. And obviously, I don't know if race parking on private property. Some people were complaining they're parking their vehicles across the street on either public or private property, and there's 1033-160 city ordinance for that. The other sections here is no person shall store or cause to be stored any personal property, which is city ordinance 12.24.050. And it gives the right of way for the city causing obstruction of any sidewalk or alley. So if we're obstructing the alley with the snow, which is one of the concerns, there's a city ordinance in effect for that. Right. And then there's a city ordinance that says signs required, 1036-070, which basically says that the public works director will erect a sign on every street where there is a ordinance in effect to limit parking. That's a lot of work for your city public works director, and that's a lot of signs and costs that you go into. You have to erect even a few signs. I don't know if it's the whole street. I don't know. I'm not the lawyer. That's just something that I read, and it's a city ordinance that's already in effect. Parking of large trucks. One of the complaints was that there was a large truck with commercial plates parked across the street from them, which causes a hazard for the street to be narrow because parking any normal vehicle, you can't drive two vehicles through. I live on that street. It's true. But there is a city ordinance in effect, which is 10.60.060, which is the limiting of truck parking, large trucks in city streets. So that complaint, I mean, it's a good complaint by all means, but there is a city ordinance in effect to handle that. There's a state statute, 35-5-110, limitation upon powers of local authorities accepted as a municipal authority. It says, except as otherwise provided, local authorities shall not require any person to pay any fee or licensing for the use of, exclude any person from the free use of the public highways or any other ways regulated and operated of motor vehicles. So there's a state statute that says, Casper's our idea of paying a fee to park your own vehicle that's registered, licensed. Might be, I don't know. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I'll leave it for you to look at. And then there's this use of roadways, city ordinance 1078-060, where sidewalks are provided as unlawful or any pedestrian to walk along, upon, or adjacent to any roadway. Now, there was concern that kids were walking in the street instead of on the sidewalks. If it's provided, I believe that they're required to clean it. There's snow removal ordinance, and again, if it's already there, why should we duplicate it? The question asking how to get it on the ballot for this 20 years that I've been in law enforcement here in the city, it's been an ongoing question. If we get it settled, we don't have to revisit it in 3 years with the new council or the same council. If we get it settled on, maybe not this election, but the next election, or the next vote, then we won't have the same issue coming up again and again, where you guys can be taking your time. I mean, you have a city to run, and not the same thing over and over and over and over again. I helped elect some of you, I'm sure. I know I voted for at least one of you. So, I mean, the answer is simple. I would like for you guys to run the city as best you can, and that's what you seem to be doing, but if this continues to keep showing up, it doesn't need to. It needs to be settled once and for all. Other cities have tried to get it through, and they're not getting it through. If this is a personal vendetta that someone has against a person because it's hard to come out on the street, I understand that. We live in a city where I've been able to talk to my neighbor about his dog poop and ask him to clean it up. If he's got a vehicle parked in the way, I'd ask him to move it. If he doesn't, then that's when I would inform the law enforcement, and the city ordinance is there to take care of it, would take care of it. So I just think that it's time for us to step up and finally make the decision and get it done with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next. Go ahead.
Always slow, sorry.
Oh, don't worry about that.
And I would like to make a comment that may or may not be appreciated. I'm seeing the older members and our public health person wearing masks. Just an observation. Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Cheryl Bailey. I have been a resident of Rawlins for 20 years, and I've been vocal about street parking for at least half of that time. I'm here again asking, imploring you to pass the second reading of Mr. Martinez's street parking ordinance. The residents of Rawlins deserve safe, unobstructed streets. It's reasonable and prudent to have cumbersome traffic blocking vehicles off the streets during the winter time. Recently, I have made phone calls to the police department about a string of vehicles on the corner of 7th Street to the corner of Birch Street, blocking view from either direction. Last week, if another driver and I driving through at the same time hadn't seen each other and broke hard, slamming on brakes, we nearly collided. I had incorrectly identified that corner of 7th and Cherry, but when the officer came to make the report, he or she saw where the problem was at Birch and 7th. And that corner is now marked with green paint to show the owner of the house where he or she can legally park. I appreciate the fact that the officer took time to follow up on my complaint. I'll pass that on to the police department. If nothing else, please enforce the existing ordinances of parking too close to the intersections, or better yet, get the offending vehicles off the street. Mr. Martinez's ordinance will at least clear the street during hazardous winter time when a single vehicle can't safely traverse a street. I'm going off script for just a moment to say that I very much appreciated the gentleman that was just up here and his recall of all of the ordinances. I probably have them in writing someplace at home, but he was very good at what he said about things that can be enforced now. But I am not looking forward to driving down 11th Street with bumper cars on both sides and a rut of ice that if you get off of it, I've damaged somebody else's car. That's why we're asking, specifically Mr. Martinez is asking for a wintertime reprise from having parked cars on streets. And I'm going to pick on Mr. Sanger for a moment, even though one of the things the gentleman said validates that you can use the street for parking. Months ago, Mr. Sanger made the comment, streets are a thoroughfare, they are not a parking lot. You wouldn't believe that if you looked at the parking that is done on many of our streets. Let's use the streets as a thoroughfare that are safe and unencumbered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi. I'm Robin Ridgway, and I was here last time. I've been at the previous meetings. Last time I did speak, shook like a leaf. I'm not going to say I'm not doing that this time, but I just really feel in my heart that once again I need to come since we're at a point where we're going to start making decisions. And I really want not only my voice to be heard, but voices of people that are not here tonight. But I am, so I'm going to say what I need to say. I know that I've come before this council at the last meeting and spoke regarding the concerns over the trailer ordinance being passed, and having attended previous meetings referencing this possible ordinance. I sat and I listened as the citizens of this community came forth, one after another. Not only to speak what they needed to say, but to state that they are not wanting this ordinance passed. But they also they didn't just bring that to you. They brought options. You know, it wasn't just coming and saying, don't pass this, and you guys deal with it. People came last time, and they came with options. Just like this gentleman came talking about ordinances, just, you know. And so, anyways, coming back, they came with options about doing something else other than requiring us to move the trailers off of the streets. Now, all of the streets are as narrow as some in this community. In fact, some of the streets are wide enough, the street that I live on, some of the streets are wide enough that it's not prohibited to have trailers parked on the street and still be able to maintain a 2-lane traffic. As is, you know, the street out up here by the Daily Times. You know, that street is wide. There was trailers parked last year. And yet you can still maintain a 2-way traffic. Dale Anderson was here at the last meeting, and he went out and he measured the streets. And so it's coming back and saying people are coming forth and bringing some options here. There are a few streets within the city that it is. The streets are narrow. You know, they were built, that area of town is an older part of town, and so those streets are narrow. They also are the same streets, same houses that have single car parking, have little tiny driveways or whatever. So there's not very many options for those people. So it's like, okay, well, what can we do that can be creative to come up with some solutions? On some of the streets that are narrow, an option would be to make them a one-way street. This is something that we already have in the city. It's not like we don't have one-way. Down by the depot, we have a one-way street. Up in that part of town, there is a one-way street, you know, and so there are options for those narrow streets. The wider streets are not impacting anybody, so to speak. Some people said, just like Jackie had stated, some people said to put it on the ballot and let people vote for it. Another option. If passed, this ordinance will financially benefit a certain group of people. That's obvious. But will definitely be a hardship to many. I watched years ago, I've lived here since 1988, when my family and I moved here. And I watched years ago when they finally had this huge turnaround. And there was this big, huge influx of people into this community, contractors to this area. I watched the motel rooms rent for $1,200 a month. I watched the rent on the houses in this town skyrocket. I watched apartments, rents be raised, or maybe it was just for the people coming in that the rents were high. People began renting rooms in their homes in order to gain some money. So what do you think the storage rentals are going to be for these trailers and RVs? There are limited places currently where we can store these items. And I can already see, you know, we already have gone through this in the past with housing. What's going to happen with the storage for all of these families? As I stated at this last meeting, it's like, are we looking at everyone that's going to be impacted? Because I think that we need to do that. 2020 has brought people within our city that have been there have been those that have been laid off. They have had their overtime cut out of the institution, or, you know, all along the city. People's overtimes are cut, their hours are cut. It's touched our restaurants, it's touched our oil field, it's touched the contractors, it's touched WSP, it's touched UR Energy. And all we have to do is look around at the people that have been impacted in our city financially. This is the people's livelihood, and these are hard times. And we want to force an additional outgo. $100, $200, $300 a month may not seem like some to some people. But I can tell you, to the retired person that's on Social Security, to the little family that lives payday to payday, or those that have struggled in this past year, that's a lot of money. And then you add the downturn in this economy, and we're looking to take more from these people. This is crazy. I would respectfully ask this council to please look at other alternatives, to evaluate some of the options that have been presented before you. This ordinance does not have the best interest of the people. It only benefits a select few. So I'm asking that you please vote no on passing of this ordinance. And I just thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lee Bonici. I'm blessed. I got a lot of toys. Got a camper, a four-wheeler. I'm also blessed that I have room to park them off the street. I have room to park my camper, my four-wheeler trailer, my vehicles, even my son's vehicle. He can ram it all in there and not block the street, and nothing parked on the street. So technically, I don't really have a horse in this race. But I really don't. How can I word this properly without sounding offensive? I don't care what the ordinance says. What I do care is how it's passed or how it's not passed. That's what I care about. I need to remind you guys that America is a constitutional republic, a form of government that drives its power. I got the elected officials who represent the citizen body and exercise power according to that under constitutional law. That's what it states. That's what a constitutional republic is. I don't think it's fair to ask you, and it's not fair to the citizens of Rawlins to ask you guys to pass something on this. I don't think it's fair at all. Because how can you pass a city ordinance to a deeply polarized community, you're gonna make someone angry, very angry. The citizens of Rawlins are citizens of a constitutional republic, not a monarchy ruled by imperial edicts. They are citizens who have the right to vote on this. You have heard arguments for the last couple of weeks, for, against, whatever it might be. I don't have a horse in the race, but I do care about the citizens of this city. I've been here for quite a while now. I've never met any of you, I don't think. I know I voted for you, because you're my ward. Now, like what you had to say about this place. This is important to each citizen, each council member, each person who resides within the boundaries of Rawlins, Wyoming. It is their right to vote on it. I ask that you put it out of ballot when we vote on this. That way, everybody has had their voice heard. On paper, you had your chance. This is what the people of this city have said. Now you will abide by it, regardless of what it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
A little short and sweet. I do have two questions. One, this is the second reading, so it wouldn't be passed, if it's passed this meeting. My understanding is then the first Tuesday of November would be the third reading and it would be passed. If I'm not mistaken, if you read it, it's supposed to begin November 1st. Does that mean that it's November 1st, 2021?
It does.
That's my take, it would be.
Okay, so it will not begin in
because-
2 weeks, you're
Just
not
because
committing
we,
people 2 weeks.
we delayed, if we would have voted first, second, and then our third would have had plenty of time, that, would have gave,
Oh, 2
3
weeks.
3 weeks or so, but anyway,
Time, but,
well,
yeah.
let me finish. What I'm saying is that because of the way it is now, if it was passed, it wouldn't take effect till 2021.
Okay,
Okay, so we don't have time to allow people that own these campers and stuff to make arrangements with it, what to do with what we got.
so if it passes, it will be in effect November 1st, 2021.
Amy?
So the council, it's typically an ordinance is effective on publication, so it's passed on third reading. As soon as it's published in the Rawlins Times, it would be effective. However, this council can specifically amend the ordinance so that it's not effective until 2021, if that's what you so choose.
That's what I would do. I don't think it's fair to present an ordinance and give them 5 days to work on it. No, I think it would be, I would make the motion to amend, if it was passed, to amend it to read that it would start
Next year.
1st of November.
The other question, and probably Chief Palmer can answer, do we have a code enforcement officer at the present time?
Me,
Yeah, we do.
Maybe.
Do we have a code enforcement officer at the
Yes.
present time?
currently, our new one doesn't start till November 2nd, so I am currently the code enforcement officer.
Okay, and I know that you, while you were up here, you mentioned the hiring of more policemen. I know in the past that many of the ordinances, almost all the ordinances that the gentleman before had mentioned are complaint-driven ordinances, meaning that the police do nothing unless they get a complaint. So my question to you, Mr. Palmer, is how many policemen do you need on your force to make it from a complaint-driven issue to a code-driven issue? Where if they drive around, they see it, they ticket it.
I can't answer that question at this time, I'd have to look at all the facts and figures on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I attended last meeting with Jay Last time I encouraged you not to not to legislate this matter. It doesn't need legislating, as adequately described earlier. There are many codes that can be used to get rid of a nuisance trailer. There are nuisances. I live in the area where these complaints are coming from. I appreciate that Councilor Martinez will give us a grace period, perhaps of a year. That's almost enough time for me to remove my front yard so I can park my camper. Because that is the only space available on the 3 lots I own in that subdivision. I can get rid of my garage, my house, or get rid of my front yard and pave it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I probably can't afford the storage fees if it comes to that. But I encourage you, this is not going to help the sidewalks. It will make 0 difference. I've lived there for 13 years now. The sidewalks that get plowed, which are far and few between, are gonna get plowed. The rest of them are not, just like they do. So, anyway, I encourage you, put it to a ballot if there's enough people that think it's worth it. Otherwise, I do not believe this matter needs legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Come on, please.
I'm there, City Council. I'll have to admit this is my first meeting, but I feel strongly enough about this that I had to come up and at least voice my opinion as a citizen here. I've lived in Rollins for 10 years. I moved my family of 7 children, my wife here, and this is a lovely community. But I want to ask this question, and I ask this to everybody: where does it stop? I moved here, and from Louisiana and Kansas, and I love it here. I love the outdoors. I like the fact that I can take my kids out snowmobiling. I don't have to worry about parking for 72 hours playing my snowmobile trailer on the street in front of my house. But if there's a concern about plowing the roads, I live on 14th and Walnut, and they don't get plowed very often. It just doesn't happen. And if it's not gonna, if we're gonna legislate or put ordinances in place that we can't park trailers on the street, there's gonna be cars next, because they do that in other communities. I think you mentioned that in some places they have new ordinances, or perhaps it was you in Cheyenne, that there's subdivisions, but those have covenants and they have fees associated with those covenants that people have to pay. But I license my vehicles and I pay my registration so that I can drive them safely on the streets. But if we're gonna legislate or put ordinances in place that don't allow trailers, will the next be the streets are too thin or too narrow for cars and for trucks and the vehicles that we would like to park on the streets? And we might say, well, that would never happen, right? But that's not always the case. So I just feel like sometimes we overstep our bounds. There's plenty of ordinances in place to deal with some of the issues that could be out there. As I see it, and in my neighborhood, I don't really see a problem. But I agree, people could park their vehicles in their front yard, as long as they're not on the sidewalk. Actually, I see people park up over the sidewalk into their front yard because they worry about cars hitting their cars on corners and things like that. So there are safety issues all around here in the wintertime. But I urge the council to vote against this, take it off the meeting notes. I just feel very strongly that things need to stop at some point. We get worn down. You keep putting things on the council's agenda, and you keep putting them on, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it. Some of us get tired. We get tired of having to battle. And there's some people that they're just passionate about it, and they just keep coming back, but they represent a small number of people. And I want to thank you for your time and your consideration, and I urge you to vote this down.
Thank you.
Ray Hanson.
Councilman Martinez?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm not passionate about anything. What took place was the last year, when we bring this up, we didn't address it. Then we brought it up again, they set up a committee. We didn't address the committee, had some recommendations, nothing was done with that. The next thing was I made a motion, I introduced an ordinance. This ordinance is about as weak as you can get. You can leave your vehicle all summer long on there. You can go camping, you can go hunting, all the way till November. And then you move them off for a while, then you bring them back. That's one thing. The second thing is I think there's only two choices. We have two choices. One is we can say that we're gonna use our streets for parking anything you want. Any trailer, any four-wheeler, anything you wanna do, you can park them on the street. Is that what we want? Or we could have some kind of a rule so that we can at least regulate it a little bit and help not only help for safety wise, but help the municipality in doing some of their work in the wintertime. It also went to the Board of Adjustments. I attended the Board of Adjustment meeting. I stayed there about 2 minutes. I had another place to go, so I left real early. I got a call after their meeting. I was really, really surprised of their reaction at that Board of Urban Systems meeting. I was really surprised of their answers and what they thought about it. They didn't make a change. Instead of 4 hours on the street, they added 72, which is 3 days. They could have made more. We're up here now. If we want to amend that ordinance that I got and add more things to it, go for it. I'm not saying it's stuck on stone. I got a number of residents that have called me all year long. They stop me in the city market. They stop me everywhere and asking me, what's going on with this ordinance? What's going on with these trailers? I have a responsibility as an elected official to bring that up. And that's where we're at right now. And I have family that hunt, I have family that go camping and fishing and believe me, it's not a popular thing. But it's something that I have to do as an elected official, sometimes bring things up that are not real popular, or there are 50-50 ordinances that I call. But I feel that that's my responsibility.
Okay. Thank you, Dory. I would just like to add with that, Dory, that I've been on the council now 8 years, and 2 years prior to me getting on the council, I stood up here and argued against it when it came up before that council for the RV parking, and the council at that time had voted against it. And since I've been on council for 8 years, I believe it's came up in front of myself at least 3 more times that the council has voted it down. So in my time, I've seen it come to the council hear all sides, and vote it down at least 4 times. So I feel that the council is doing their job, because if it's come up 4 times, it's kind of, we just keep bringing it up until finally people give in and pass something. 4 different councils has voted against it. And I feel that it's time that we stop that. I mean, we want to override what the last council voted on, so let's try it again. And that's my take.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a problem with what you said, but what's the answer? Just do away with it? Allow parking on the street for everybody? That's fine, if that's what you want.
Well,
Let's vote that in.
I think that's what we're at, Debarry.
No, we're not.
Is the answer, because there are
We're
some.
trying to find out, Mr. Mayor, what we're trying to find out is what do the citizens of this community want? Do we want to open it up for parking for everybody and use our streets as storage facilities? Is that what we want? Or do we want to have some type of a rule to regulate recreational vehicles and just trailers on the street? I agree with the gentleman that brought up all these ordinances. We need to address those ordinances. We need to enforce those ordinances. And if we done that, we probably might not have the problems that we have. But we haven't.
I agree with that.
And you know, keep bringing this up, and I get people keep wanting to bring it up. We gotta put a stop to it. This is the way to do it. Either vote my ordinance down and allow the residents of this community to use our streets for, camping facilities. That's fine.
I think we do have some problem areas in town. I won't argue with that whatsoever. We do have some areas that we have to try to figure something out on, because it doesn't matter what's parked on the street. A small little car, it's an issue with some of those narrow streets. But I don't feel this blanket ordinance is the way to go to penalize the parts of the town that do live on wider streets, that do park according to the laws. I just don't think it's fair to impact everybody. That's my take. Councilwoman Wells?
I personally think we're all headed in this, well, most of us are headed in the same direction, that this should be a vote for the public.
Amen.
Yes.
That's where I lean.
That's the answer to the question, what do we do, how do we vote? We vote on it as a citizen, not a council, as the citizens of Rollins. You said, how do we resolve this? That's how we resolve it.
Sir, do we do that for everything that we have that
On
comes
deep-
up before this floor?
On
If it
deeply
isn't gonna
polarizing
be-
issues, yes.
If it's not gonna be camping trailers, it could be another subject. Do we do it every time? Do we go to the polls for everything that we do out here?
May I back up?
To me, the polls are the council, period.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
1 second, Aaron, we have a gentleman here that'd like to speak again.
You say you want to vote on it, that's us that should vote on it. Then you say, open it to park anywhere, anything you want out there. That's not the issue. We're not discussing semi-trailers parked on Lebanon Street.
We have an ordinance.
Exactly. We're discussing campers, four-wheeler trailers, boat trailers, things like that. You stated, what do we do about it? You let the citizens vote. Then you say, what do we do with everything? No one said everything. We're talking about a deeply polarizing issue that has your community in an uproar. Those types of things should be voted by the citizens. You guys were all elected to handle issues. That is correct. But when something is a hot button issue, why would you want it on your head? Put it back onto us. Put it onto our heads. It's our responsibility to address it. It's a hot button issue. I hear the passion in your voice. I hear the passion of other people who support you as well. I understand. But there is a simple, easy answer. Let the citizens of Rawlins, Wyoming vote on this ordinance as it's written. It's yea or nay. And yea.
And I really appreciate you coming up here and expressing yourself, I really do. I can tell you this is not the first time in my 38 years of being on the city council that I've had to face this. A good example was we allowed mobile homes on private lots so people could have a place to live. And I fought that, and I had people standing up here in front of you saying, this should be put on a ballot. This should be not the council's decision. I was told things like, you're gonna go broke, you're gonna go bankrupt if we pass it. We passed it. 30 years later, these people that have these mobile homes on private lots got a place to live, and a lot of them tore them down and built homes. When the issue came up with low-income housing, I fought for that. It was a rough battle. I ended up getting beat up by some law enforcement people that are not even in the city of Rawlins anymore, based on how I felt about low-income housing. That was another issue that filled this council room. But we took it and we met the responsibility and we passed it. Now we have low-income housing throughout the community. Hasn't affected anybody, and people have places to live. Those are the decisions you gotta make when you're on the council. They're not always the most popular thing. You're always gonna make somebody mad.
And this is quickly becoming a litmus test for our city councilmen. You said you've been
In
on
your
for 38
opinion.
years.
Yeah, in your opinion.
Do you use Facebook at all, sir?
No.
You look at Rollins News and Chatter where this comes up, and ooh, there are some deeply polarized, and people would feel very strongly and spew vile things on there about this.
had some calls.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. This is rapidly approaching a litmus test. That's all I'm saying. And this is a citizen issue that the citizens should be voting on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Aaron, go ahead.
I was just curious, if it was to go to a ballot, what would be the process? What would that take, and what's the process? How does it go forward?
That is something that we'll have to work on that. Tomorrow, I'll get with Amy and Sherry, well, they're here tonight, and we can start looking into that, Aaron, to see what that's gonna take. I've never been down that road before, so we're gonna have to look into that a little bit.
Okay, and then just a point of clarification, as it's written, as the motion is put forward right now, it's going to be effective immediately on publication without an amendment, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and it looks like Patrick's up, so I will let him go.
You're gonna have to do that, Aaron. Honorable Mayor, Council, there's a lot of information that's being put out. There's a lot of good arguments on both sides of this. I think the gentleman that has spoken twice actually brings up some very valid points. And bringing this and letting the people decide isn't such a bad idea. Unfortunately, we all know how that's going to happen. If it's passed or if it isn't, you're still going to get complaints. And while this has come before City Council numerous times, the reason why it continues to be brought up is the fact because it is complaint driven. Yes, we are short-staffed. We don't have code enforcement officers. It just as Mr. Caffier, I have basically those same ordinances here. I can tell you right now on Cherry Street, there are 4 trailers within a 2-block on the same 2 blocks. They're off the street, which I applaud the owners, but guess what? They block the sidewalks. Add to that, there are 2 trucks also parked on the sidewalk. So now that it prohibits me or anybody else from walking on the sidewalk. In a similar fashion, it's not just trailers, it's not just boats, it's not just campers, it's cars and trucks. The difficulty in this, and I was going to say, I disagree with Mr. Cassier, this is not an easy fix. This is not an easy solution. This is a very complex problem because every area in this community is different. It's not cookie cutter. All of our streets are not the same. Dale Anderson spoke a couple of weeks ago and he's talked about legislation. The reason why legislation exists is because we aren't following the rules that are already in place. That's the reality that people seem to forget. I've read a lot of stuff on social media as well. Pro and con. My rights. I license sites. You're right. You do. You pay taxes in order to use those streets. So do I. I'm a bicyclist and a motorcyclist. So when my safety is in peril because somebody's not parked 20 feet from the curb, or they have a big boat or a big camper or a big trailer, now I have to risk my life to go out into that intersection to make sure I'm safe. So I can get broadsided by a car or a truck, possibly lose my life. That's what this whole thing is about. It's not about plowing the streets, it's about safety. And that is the one thing that people forget. It's not about rights, it's about safety. It's not about snow removal, it's about safety. And our streets are becoming unsafe. And I'm not going to sit up here or stand up here and tell you I'm for or against this ordinance. What I'm telling you is the way it's currently written, it needs to be changed. The ordinances that we do have on the books, they need to be enforced. That would eliminate a great deal of our problem. Whether the cars, trucks, boats, campers, whatever. The difficulty in all of this is people assume because they haven't been cited or ticketed that it's okay. That's not civic responsibility by any stretch of the imagination. Our job as citizens of this country, of this state, of this community, are to be good, responsible neighbors. You know, a couple of times I've read stuff about, well, it's my right to do that. Many of you know I'm a musician, I'm a guitar player, I have amps that are extremely loud. That doesn't give me the right to stick one of those bad boys outside at 4 o'clock in the morning and play at 150 decibels. We laugh, but that's the harsh reality. Those are unwritten rules, and I know we actually do have a noise ordinance. I wouldn't do that because I'm trying to be a good, responsible member of this community. That's what we all should keep in mind. Yeah, there's a lot of passion for and against this thing, but the bottom line is we have to keep our community safe. That's your job as members of the council, is to keep us safe. That means all of us. It means the trailer owners, the camper owners, all of us. That's what this is about, keeping our streets safe. When I have to take my 2-year-old grandson and walk up to the park, but I have to walk out in the street because we can't walk on the sidewalk because there's 3 trailers parked on the sidewalks, and you're putting his life in jeopardy. Not just mine, but his. And that's one of the things that we all have to realize. Yeah, everybody has their thoughts and their opinions on the matter. So it boils down to we have to maintain some civility in all this, and we have to make sure that we are safe as a community. And there are no easy answers. And I'm sorry, this is not a simple solution. It's very complex. Because every area, like I said, is different. There are some areas that doesn't impact at all. You could put campers, boats, whatever. You could put semis on there, it wouldn't impact anything. But in other areas, yeah, one-way streets make a whole heck of a lot of difference. Is it costly? You bet. I brought this issue up, if you recall, to former Mayor Grobberger, and that was his exact comment to me. Well, it's costly. I hate to tell you this, Buxton was costly. Lawsuits are costly. All these different things that we have dealt with as a community are costly. But when it comes to the safety of our community, we have to put cost aside and realize we have to protect our citizens. We have to protect everybody's rights. We have to enforce the laws that we have and make this a better community all the way around. And until that happens, you're going to have polarization. You're going to have people upset and angry. And unfortunately, I keep hearing these statistics that at least half the people, I can tell you that's not true. Half of the people in this community do not own campers, boats, or trailers. There's a small percentage of those people that do. And what bothers me the most is when I hear somebody say that it's their right, but they completely forget about the rights of the people that are frustrated by all of this. We all have rights, and all of our rights are important. And that's one thing we can't lose sight of. And I do agree, put this on the ballot, let the people decide, and let the chips fall where they may, and I can guarantee you, if they pass this, then the people that have all that have no right to complain anymore. And similarly, the people who are complaining about all this stuff have no more right to complain. But it still boils down to our civic responsibility as members of this community to be respectful of everyone's rights. So just remember that, I'm an avid bicyclist and a motorcyclist. When my life's in peril on our streets, I've got some huge issues and concerns about that. Because I also usually have a passenger on the back too. That's something to think about. So it's not as simple as you think it is. It's pretty complex. That's something I hope we all think about. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Is there anybody else?
May I speak a second time?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't mean to supersede you.
I have the written comments, so we will be reading those, as per council's desire to hear from the public.
Now, this is totally off the cuff. I do not have anything prepared, but I have been listening to every other speaker. I hope they've been listening to me. What I would like to see the council do is, at least at this moment, pass the second reading and possibly put an amendment on it that you will look at taking it to the people. I'm all for what the gentleman says about let the people decide. You're our representatives, but let the people decide. just as the one gentleman said, I have heard people repeatedly say to me, because they know this is an issue for me, Cheryl, keep talking for us. And I look at them and say, excuse me, why don't you get up and talk for yourself? Well, people don't do that. So you're listening to the people today that are willing to come and speak. I'm speaking because I've heard some good proposals. Put it on the ballot. I'd even be willing to say, vote this second reading down today if you promise to put it on the ballot. Or if you promise to make sure all of those enforcement ordinances are enforced. Yes, I'm a big mouth. I called on that property that had a line of a trailer, a truck, a trailer with it looked like either snowmobiles or ATVs, I don't know which, but to the point that I almost lost my only car. I only have one car. I cannot not have a car to get around this community. I think that several people have given proposals that may defeat the proposal, Mr. Martinez, and I hate to say that, but only if you're also willing to go forward now and do the right thing, as several people have said. Put it to the vote. If the majority of the people say, leave us alone, the cars and trucks and everything on the street are fine, I'll shut my mouth. I won't come back up and speak again. Because I agree with the gentleman that said, we have got to let the people decide. And maybe it is too much to put on the council to make that decision. But then do something about it. Enforce the ordinances, take a vote of the people, and the rest of us, including Big Mouth Cheryl, will shut up about it. Am I happy about it? No, but I will shut up about it. In the meantime, Mayor, I'd like to make one comment to you and also to Mr. Martinez. I was on that committee that you formed. Unfortunately, I was stuck in Michigan at the time that Janita came before the council with the proposal. My understanding is she did explain, as several people I know the Ridgeways are concerned about the width of their street. We had part of that proposal was you've got to do something about street widths. But instead, nothing was done. Do something. Make a decision. Make that decision, Mr. Martinez. I apologize because I told you I would back you 100%. But make the decision to turn this second reading down if that's what you have to do. But don't do it unless you've got something else, taking a vote, enforcing ordinances. And I feel sorry for our police chief that he's having to go out and do those things. But the problem is without enforcement of all of those ordinances, may I ask your name, sir?
Me?
Yep.
Ramon Castiega.
Mr. Castiega. He had all of the ordinances, but how many people are going to call and say, by the way, like I did, these vehicles are way too close to the corner to the point that I couldn't see, nor could the driver coming out from the other street. If our police cannot enforce those ordinances, they're worth nothing. That's all I have to say, but thank you for letting me speak again, and now I'll shut up because that's why I proved out what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Honorable Mayor and Council, as we did with the last meeting, we did take comments, so I'm going to read those in the record. And if I get worn out, Danielle will help me. So this is from Molly Lee. To the Rollins City Council, I'm writing to respectively voice my support for Rollins Municipal Code 10.33.30, which would regulate trailer parking on public streets, roadways, right-of-ways, and alleys. First, I thank the council for taking the time to consider this municipal code and for the painstaking process that it has taken to get to this point. I've been a resident of Rollins for the past 6 years and a property owner for the past 4.5 years. I'm of the opinion that trailer parking on public streets should be regulated year-round, but believe that this municipal code is a fair and reasonable compromise. First and foremost, allowing trailer parking on public streets to the degree that the city currently does is a significant and obvious safety issue. I enjoy walking, running, and biking on our city streets and sidewalks. On more than one occasion, I have nearly been hit by vehicles who couldn't see me around campers. They were parked both on the sidewalk and in the street. I had to walk into the street as the camper was impeding the sidewalk and nearly hit by a car who didn't see me emerge from around the side of the camper. Additionally, I was nearly hit by an oncoming vehicle while I was backing my vehicle out of the driveway of my property. I couldn't see the oncoming vehicle because my neighbor had a large vehicle parked in my line of sight. Had the road been icy and snow-packed like it is for several months out of the year, I wouldn't have been able to come to an abrupt stop and would have undoubtedly been hit. I also shudder to think about one of the houses in my neighborhood catching on fire or a resident needing emergency ambulance services, and the path to many residents on my street being blocked by campers and trailers. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't, and I believe it is in the public's best interest to at least make an effort to safeguard and have a plan in place for situations like this. It's also important to remember there are children who ride bikes, scooters, longboards, or simply walk to and from school or around town. These children might not have the presence of mind to account for the fact that trailers impede the vision of drivers. As an adult, I am constantly on alert when I'm a pedestrian in Rollins, but a child likely isn't. In addition to the obvious safety issue that is caused by allowing trailers to park on our city streets unregulated, it is unreasonable to also account for the fact that our streets are constantly covered in snow and ice. We have them clear the myriad of trailers, campers, etc. in the winter. There is an opportunity to clear and maintain the streets on an ongoing basis, whether by the city or by personal property owners, as is the case in my neighborhood. I can acknowledge the fact that there will likely be cars parked in the streets in the winter, but at least those vehicles are smaller in size and likely moving every day or can be moved quickly if needed, opposed to a trailer being stored on city streets for months on end. Finally, I'd like to point out that my husband and I would absolutely be impacted by this particular municipal code, as we own a boat, camper, and a trailer. We are responsible enough to understand that it is not the obligation of the city to provide us with storage for the items. The burden of storage is on us, the owner, and we will find appropriate accommodations. We care about our community and our neighbors, and take pride in the place we have chosen to make our home. We are willing to pay for storage or be inconvenienced into finding appropriate storage for the items we cannot house on the property we own. In conclusion, I would urge the City Council to please vote in favor of the proposed ordinance and show that the safety, health, and well-being of our community is more important than providing storage on city streets for personally owned property. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sure.
Okay. Sorry, just making sure I wasn't repeating. Honorable Mayor and City Council, last council meeting, Linda Smith expressed her real concerns about the ordinance and its impact, as did Aaron Durst. Linda Smith suggested that as an option, this ordinance be brought to a public vote. Aaron Durst has also suggested in the past bringing it to a public vote as well. After considerable discussion, the vote was postponed and rescheduled for the next council meeting on October 20th. It was apparent that certain members of the council were not very pleased with the postponement. It was interesting to see Tuesday that the vast majority of the public in attendance and most of the letters read were not for the ordinance. Several honestly expressed the desire for a more workable resolution outside of simply banning RV on-street parking, etc. I'd have to say that it came across that the workable resolution that had the potential of a win-win for the majority of the citizens of Rollins was not even up for discussion. And neither was there going to be a move for a public vote. I'd have to also say that it felt like discussion had already taken place, minds were already made up, and regardless of the concerns of the majority, this ordinance was a done deal. Now it's just pushing through the schematics, and it will all be behind this legislative body. It was apparent that there was some frustration with some over so many speaking against the ordinance, both in person and by letter Tuesday night. Councilman Jabari Martinez commented at the end of discussion that before the council meeting, 5 people had called him personally to express their support for the ordinance. While I don't necessarily doubt that comment, I would ask why didn't they take the time to show up to the council meeting or to even write a letter if they were that concerned? I have several other questions. Why was all of this seemingly tackled so late in the year and during hunting season when a lot of people who would be impacted are out hunting? Why such a rush with implementation so late in the year? Why the seeming lack of concern over the financial hardship this might bring, especially during the COVID-19 crisis, when so many have already been financially impacted, including our state of Wyoming and its budget? And finally, why no real workable options alternatives discussed when asked about options, other than what many of us have been told? If you can afford an RV, boat, four-wheeler, snowmobile, job trailer, you can afford to pay to store it somewhere else, not our problem, even though Carbon County has already reaped and will continue to reap the tax benefit. I was disappointed that Mayor Steve Nicholson was not in attendance at the last council meeting since this is such an important issue and an ordinance that will impact so many Rollins residents. I actually question why Ward 1 is the driving force in the legislation when they are probably the least impacted. I say that as owning considerable property and having built 9 homes in Ward 1. Ward 3, with its older homes and streets, is probably the most impacted, with the exception of some larger streets. I would like to ask this council as a minimum for a postponement till spring. This would give everyone a better opportunity to plan, given the lateness in the year. Ultimately, it would seem to me more fair to consider bringing this up for a public vote and let the people of Rollins decide what they want. One of the things I have noticed through all that our nation is going through right now is that city after city is legislating rather than listening to its citizens.
This is from Reed Holmes. My name is Reed Holmes. Thank you for taking care of our town and listening to my thoughts on this matter. I have had a large trailer for many years parked in front of my home on the street at both of the addresses I've lived in the last 5 years. I'm always courteous of my neighbors, checking in with them to ensure it's not a problem. I never park it in front of someone else's home. I've never had a complaint or issue from any neighbors or law enforcement. All I ask is that people like me get to continue to be free to use the street directly in front of our homes for our trailers. I understand the need for trailers on sharp corners to be moved for traffic visibility, but please allow the rest of us to continue to have what we all love about our home here in Wyoming, freedom. Thanks so much. The next one is from Devin McFeehill. We believe a large number of residents have been allowed for a long time to compromise the safety of all residents by parking RVs and trailers on city streets. This is not an issue of those who have versus those who have not. There are many residents, ourselves included, who could own toys, but choose not to because we do not wish to park them on the street. This is because of safety concerns and respect for our neighbors. Having a license on your toy gives you the right to run it down the road, not impede the safety of others. Please support this ordinance. This is from Kenny Waits. My name is Kenny Waits. My husband and I grew up in Carbon County and have lived in Rollins for many years. We've always loved this area, mountains, outdoors, and the fact that Carbon County is a welcoming, laid-back area where people are there for each other. This trailer ordinance, however, is out of line for several reasons. It has been brought up several times for many years and rejected every time, because it is not right. We live in an area of many incomes, age groups, and outdoor enthusiasts. The attitude of if you can afford toys, you can afford to store them is wrong. For starters, your plates and sales tax makes any vehicle street legal. Secondly, many of our families are on tight budgets and that camper, boat, or ATV may be their vacation each summer. They cannot afford an extra $30 to $50 storage. Many will not pay to store them. They will use their yards, bringing down property values. Water department will lose money. Yards won't be watered, and safety. How safe will it be if there's a house fire? Responders won't be able to get to the structure because it's surrounded by boats, horse trailers, ATVs, campers, and snow machines. Adding flammable materials like propane fuels, wood, trailer floors, etc. So the safety side, how many houses, people could be affected. Other safety issues brought up at the last meeting. Streets are too narrow for 2 cars to pass with trailers, campers, etc. parked in the street, which technically will still be an issue if trucks or cars are parked in the street. Easy fix, one-way streets, slower winter speed limits for those narrow roads. Also mentioned was not seen at corners. I believe we have an ordinance already that covers this, it's just not enforced. The city plows key streets and this ordinance will not change that. They don't have the manpower or budget to plow every street all winter long. We should be able to come up with a solution for this that doesn't put a hardship to our neighbors. It shows bias to those with toys, business trailers, and recreational trailers. For many community members, just plating these items plus home expenses, groceries, and gas are all they can do. I know at the end of the last meeting, this council showed interest in the idea of a permit to park in the street. This has no purpose but to put more money in the city's pocket and makes no changes to this issue. Many areas in town have wide streets, but some areas do not. One-way streets could fix these areas with minimal expense to the city and residents. We live in Wyoming, wide open spaces, freedom from a heavy government community. If we wanted so much control and rules for everything, we'd live in Denver, Salt Lake, or other large cities. Please think of the working families, retired seniors, and newly started families, and stop this ordinance again. Stop bringing it back up and enforce existing ordinances. Simply change narrow streets to one route of traffic. Thank you, Kenny Waits. And then our last comment that we received was from Mr. Rick Martinez. And I do want to point out, he attached the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, or he offered to provide a booklet of those. And I did find those, and I scanned them into Board Docs. So those are available. And his comment was, please read the attached document. It's refreshing and provides what is needed to stop this embarrassing and dishonoring request. If you are unable to require it, we did. He does have some he's happy to provide you with a copy. His phone number is 307-920-0123. It is my firm belief and understanding that you are attempting to have me and others commit sedition, even possibly treason, against the people of this nation, specifically the American people of Rollins, Wyoming, USA. My best advice is to cease and desist this activity as soon as you receive this notice. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter. Semper Fi, Rick.
Is there anybody else from the citizens that would like to speak? Okay. Is there any discussion from the council before it goes to vote? Councilman Espinoza?
I have to apologize to Jabari Martinez because I always carry a stack of his cards. And my constituents come up with a hot issue or whatever, I just hand them a card and let them know to call me in the morning. I would have to go with Jacqueline and Aaron's idea of coming up with them, have the people vote on this. And I do like the idea of this gentleman saying about going by and using those ordinances that we do have. I say just put in the newspaper, people would be considerate enough to move their large trailers and stuff at a certain point of time of the year. And give all those ordinances showing that what would happen if there is a problem with their trailer being there, if it's a snow drift or they're blocking the sidewalks or blocking the corners. Give them a chance to see what the ordinances are all about. I wouldn't like to see this ordinance actually passed this year, and sorry to say, but the next council will have to look at it.
Councilwoman Smith?
My first thing I'd like to say, I would like to have the city engineer work with the city manager and public works and make a survey of the community to see what streets that are, could be possibly one-way streets.
7 through 15.
We understand, and because of the Model Ts from way back when, that's where you're gonna find them. But I do want them to see if they could kind of survey those so we know what we're looking at. That'd be one thing we could do. I wanted to say, a long time ago, I was taught that in your gut, if you don't feel that it isn't fitting right, it doesn't feel right, then you shouldn't be saying yes to something that you don't feel is really the right thing to do. I think that there are lots of things that, well, I really respect Ramon's comments on the statutes because there are statutes there that we need to enforce. And I also know that that is a burden that we don't have enough staffing to really do on a continuing basis, that they do hand out tickets when they see these things. I know, because I got one, because I parked too close to the end of the street. And I don't mind paying the fine for it, but I moved it. But I just think the answer's out there, but I told a couple of my, the two ladies that called me on it, and they were pro. I told them that I was concerned about the safety issues in this. And yeah, I'm making a speech, but I just want you to know where I'm coming from. Down deep in my gut, I don't think this is the right vehicle to do what we need to do. I also think that the public has a right to have a say in what we do. My job as a council member is to listen to all the people. And yeah, we've got both sides, but I'm hearing more, I don't want this than I'm hearing that we want it. So tonight, I'm going to vote no on it because I don't think it's the right way to go, because I I just don't feel it's the right, with all due respect.
No,
You know, I just want you to know where I was coming from. And I
Thank
do agree we should go out for
Thank you, Linda. Is there anybody else that would like to comment? Danielle?
Mayor, I'm sorry, I should have said this earlier and I completely spaced it, so my apologies. But on your, in your packet or on board docs, there's also a GIS map with all of the city streets. And there's road widths and everything. So I think that would maybe help address your question with the one-way street. So it shows, and it's not super specific, it gives you kind of ranges like 30 to 33 feet. But if you look at that, you'll see where a lot of those problem streets that I think a lot of the citizens have brought up are identified in green. So I apologize for not bringing that up earlier. I got kind of sidetracked and spaced it.
All right, Councilman Smith?
I still want the city engineer to work with our city manager to see and make recommendations on what streets that we really seriously need to look at and have a cost value with them and that kind of thing. And thank you very much.
Councilman Martinez?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you people that brought up the narrow streets, I agree with you. This has been brought up before. This is another issue that goes around and around year after year. What are we gonna do with these streets? They're too narrow. I agree with Mr. Gonzalez. We've spent some money on other items that we could have really concentrated on these narrow streets. My thinking is that I think that's a separate issue. We're talking about the full community, not just a few blocks that have a narrow street. We have other streets that there are people that are opposed to RVs and trailers on the street. Having said that, no matter what happens tonight, this was an issue that I brought up that had to be addressed. We had to bring it up. We couldn't go over it over and over and over again. That was the first thing. The second thing is, I don't think no matter what we do, if we put it before the voters, like Mr. Gonzalez said, and the voters decided that you can't have trailers or recreational vehicles on the street, you're still gonna be mad. It's not gonna just go away because the voters said you can't have them. It's not gonna go away, it'll come back. I'm not a diehard on this ordinance, it doesn't affect, in my ward, I got 2 or 3 calls. Why? Because it's the older side of town, and most people down there have large pieces of property where they can put their recreational vehicles on. It's about the respect of your neighbors, health and safety. It's working with the municipality to be able to do their job, to get this snow removal, make it easier, or to sweep the street. I have no problem putting it to the voter, but all that is a delay. Anything that happens here that goes to the next council does not bind the next council as to what they're gonna do. It doesn't gonna bind them. They can come back up again for any member that's elected or any new council member can bring it up again. So I just wanna let you know that. I don't, whatever this council decides, that's fine with me.
Any more questions from anybody else? Ramon?
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
I think I just want to elaborate, or ask a question for elaboration on what Linda was just talking about. Regardless of the size of the issue, the number one unanimous consent that I have heard is looking at one-way streets. What would it take, and I was looking at Danielle's map, and by far Ward 3 has all the green, tiny little streets. What does that process look like? What does it take? How long does that process? I don't have any idea. If we wanted to look at one-way streets, what does that look like?
So the question that Aaron asked is, what would it look like? How long would it take to possibly convert that area of town into one-way streets? And I presume that would have to go in front of Urban Systems for their recommendation and review. The city engineer would have to review that. Like anything, it'd be a process. Time-wise, it'd be a while. It wouldn't happen next week or next spring. It takes some time. So I guess that's the best answer I can give on that right now, Aaron, without doing some more research on it.
Okay, and then my second question is to Councilman Martinez. Are you willing to amend your motion to make it be active next year instead of this year?
I think I mentioned that, Aaron, I said that I'd be willing to amend my motion that if it passed, that it would not take effect till 2021, November of 2021.
Okay, you want to make that amendment?
I can. If the council's ready, I thought we were discussing it, but that's fine. If you want to end discussion, I'd be.
Well, no. I mean,
I'd be more than happy to amend my motion. So
Let's wait for the discussions to finish.
that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Ramon, go ahead.
Okay, well, there's been several arguments, and you're right. It's been coming up and been coming up and coming up. However, for the next city council, if it's voted on by the citizens of this city, and it comes up again, you can say it was put to a vote 5 years ago. It was put to a vote 2 years ago, and that's an answer.
I agree with you. You're just making my job easier as a council member. Anytime an issue that comes that there's some controversy, it's easy for me to say, okay, forget it, just pass it on to the next election.
And it'd be easy for
Then
you
I
to say
don't
it's
feel
not my
that,
ward.
then I
too.
don't feel that I'm doing my job. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, like I said, it's easy for you to say it's not my ward too, but you're representing all of
All
us.
the community.
Even though you have a ward.
I understand that.
I understand too, and like I said, I agree with you. You need to represent all of us.
That's
That's
right.
what all of you do.
That's right.
Okay, as far as one-way streets, my street was widened by the city when they did the sewers. Even though it's been widened, and it's wider than Cherry Street, it's wider than Alder, it's still not wide enough to park 2 RVs and drive 2 cars side by side. It's not wide enough to park a truck, and drive 2 cars side by side. You have to stop. I don't have a problem on my street. There's a commercial vehicle that's parked on my street. It's been there for years. And with it being there for years, everybody on the street seems to just stop and let the other person go. It's politeness, because we live in this community together. And I don't have a problem with being polite to other people. If my trailer, my RV, my truck was in someone's way, I've had my neighbors ask me to move them, and I will, no problem. I'll even stop what I'm doing right then, because it's important to them at that particular time. Okay, as far as the city ordinances for parking too close in alleys, or too close in entryways, or too close in intersections. My neighbor parks on 7th and Birch. He's the one who marked that, not the police. He marked it so he knew, because he was unaware of exactly where it needed to be. He took the time to figure that out, because that's what a good neighbor does. And I may be for this, I may be against this. I don't, again, have a problem. I park my RV off the city streets. I have a place to put it. And if the whole city decides that I'm wrong and I can't park it there for 72 hours, I'm okay with that. I'll be okay with that. I've fought for everybody to have their right to vote. I was enlisted in the military, and I believe that you have that right. And whether I agree with it or not, yeah, I'll be pissed off about it. But I'm gonna deal with it, because I'm an adult and this is my community. I've been in this community for 28 years. So I think that you guys have a rough job. And quite honestly, as Ms. David put it, if you want to vote it down, and as long as you can say that it's going to go to the election, I'll be more than happy to go to the election and vote it the way I want to see it. And if my neighbor down the street doesn't like it that way, they can vote against it. That's 2 votes that cancel each other. But eventually, there's going to be enough to go yes or no. And that's where I'm at. I think, quite honestly, it needs to go to a vote. Thank you.
Could we ask for 5-minute recess?
Yes, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
issues in the whole town, we go out there and we enforce fully. I mean, we go out there and guess what? These guys up here's phones ring off the hook. The city manager's phone rings off the hook. Guess what? They ask us to stop. Slow down. You're being too heavy-handed. Because a lot of times we're busy from probably 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. We're pretty busy. And then on the weekends, we're busy probably till about 2 o'clock in the morning. After that, it starts slowing down, and that's the time that we could go up and down each street. And we could tag every single violation between 3 o'clock in the morning and 6 a.m. in the morning. We could. But is that fair to you as a citizen that I didn't go to your, you don't want me knocking at your door at 3 o'clock in the morning so I can explain an ordinance to you, right? So we tag everybody's vehicles. And then we get the complaint that we're too heavy-handed, we're a Gestapo. I've heard that many times. So that's what I'm getting at with, and you asked, how many code enforcement officers would I need to do it effectively? 1 for each ward. There's 3 wards, I would need 3. So each one could be assigned a ward, and that would be their responsibility. Okay, that's one way to fix that problem, for code enforcement. I'm law enforcement, so there's 2 different things, civil and criminal. Sometimes they overlap, but for the most part, code enforcement is civil issues. So hopefully that clears that up a little bit. Like I said, I'm not making an excuse that we're shorthanded. We are very shorthanded. We're 5 officers down right now. And we have been for a long time. My officers are working their butts off. I'm very proud of who we have on our force right now. They don't complain. They work day in and day out to protect each and one of us in this room. So, thank you.
One thing I'd like to add here before we close this is, I'd like to task the city manager with looking into possibly a second code enforcement person, looking into the budget, seeing if it's something that we could do, having an assistant to the new one that's going to be hired, to where, looking at the ordinances, because I agree with Troy. I don't want people all of a sudden start waking up in the mornings and having tickets on their vehicles or their trailers. But if we could have the code enforcement, and we could somehow in the budget find money for another one, just could, it's up to you to look at, to where they can go out and educate. And then, warn, then ticket, just like what Troy said. Everybody deserves the chance to bring their violation into legal. So it's just a thought, something I'd like you to take a look at.
And your Honorable Mayor, just as a point of clarification, the police department addresses all public code enforcement issues. So if it's on a public street or right of way, it would fall to the police department. The code enforcement officer deals with private property. So the issue would be additional law enforcement or police.
So yeah, so then maybe be something under the police department then. Sorry for misspeaking there.
I think that's, it was worthy of clarification. I think it's been discussed about code enforcement and not having one, but all of the issues involving parking on city streets, right-of-ways, or alleys would fall to the police department. And just as Troy said, they are shorthanded. They are working.
And I understand that. And I feel strongly that a lot of our issues can be solved with that versus another ordinance. With that being said, is there any other questions?
I would like another directive to staff and probably city manager and legal counsel to please put together the steps. And I kind of know it, but I want it in writing from you as to the steps to get it on the ballot. And I know wording is absolutely paramount on how to put that together for referendum. So I don't know if we want to look at what Jabari has suggested for an ordinance, or whether we have some other combination on the ballot that people vote for. But I think that would be a positive step for us to move forward.
Okay.
Is that something we would need to vote on? No, we take direction from the city council, so that's plenty of direction.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Councilmember Martinez?
Members of the council, I am going to continue to to support the ordinance that I suggested. I'm not opposed to allowing it to go on the ballot if that is the direction that this council wants to put. I'm only one member of this council. But I don't feel that it's gonna solve the problem, but it's something that we can try to do.
If there's no other questions or comments, then I would ask Sherry to open up online voting.
Online voting is closed and the motion fails with 5 nays. Mayor Nicholson voting nay, Councilmember Durst, Espinoza, Smith, and Wells, 2 nays.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry. So that motion has failed, and we'll stop there and we'll move forward with some other ideas.
I just, point of order, Mr. Mayor, I guess what I would like to know, whatever we decide to do, are we gonna, is this gonna be on the record so that down the road, if nothing's done, I can come back and say, look, we defeated an ordinance, what have we done since then? You know, is there a motion to that effect giving direction to the staff?
Councilman Smith?
I think the record should reflect that we directed staff in, for the 2 items, and I think that would be sufficient.
And that is correct, as long as we have directed staff then.
And we will, I believe the city manager will ensure that the city clerk includes those in the official minutes that are presented to you and will become official record of tonight.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Laurie?
That's fine, and I guess in regard to the audience, I just want to let you know that this had to be brought up. We had to put an end to this so that it doesn't continue to keep coming up. And that was the purpose of this motion, of this ordinance. I suggested from the beginning, when I introduced this ordinance, that this council could have made any changes they wanted on that ordinance. When it went to urban systems, they made a change. I accepted their change on that particular ordinance. So I just want to let you know that. So in regard to the putting it on the ballot, I don't see that that's going to be a problem. It makes my job easier, and I appreciate you coming and voicing your opinion.
Thank you, Laurie. All right, we will move on to the next item here. Item C, an ordinance, second reading amending Rawlins Municipal Code 19.40.050. Need a motion? Councilwoman Wells?
I move to approve on second reading and waive the reading of the ordinance amending Rawlins Municipal Code Title 19.40.050 fences.
Okay, Councilwoman Smith seconds that. Does anybody have, is there anything you need to explain to us on that, Danielle, or any changes?
There were no changes from the last council meeting with you guys, and just a quick summary. The changes, we broke down each of the different zoning districts, and it's an 8-foot increase in commercial 2, industrial, public and civic use. Commercial 1 and residential zones would remain the same with 4 foot in the front, 7 foot in the rear.
Okay.
And this item did go before the Planning and Zoning Commission with a recommendation to you guys.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments for Danielle? Any objections to the motion that was made? Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Thank you, Sherry. I'll move on down to new business. The first item is the approval of the payroll. Councilman Sanders.
I move to approve the September 27, 2020 through October 10th, 2020 payroll register for $258,189.60.
Second. We have a first and a second. Any objections or questions to that motion that was made? Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Okay, we'll move on down to item B, approval of the accounts payable. Councilwoman Smith.
I move to approve the accounts payable register for the period of October 7th, 2020 to October 12th, 2020 in the amount of $179,318.62.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any questions or objections to that motion that was made? Councilman Espinoza?
Yeah, I noticed on page 1, property taxes on city-owned properties for 2020 was $8,743.95. I'm just wondering which properties those are, how long we've had them, and are they actually useful to us? Do we need to take a look at them and try to put them out there on the record?
I do not know which properties those are, but I can find out and bring it back to you, and that has crossed my mind too. And so I will investigate that further.
Amy, do you have something to add to that?
I believe those are the lots that the city has over by the Rochelle Ranch Golf Course that was. And according to state statute and tax code, it has to serve a municipal need for it to be tax exempt. And so I believe that's the issue, but I would absolutely defer to Jody for further research.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lloyd. Is there any other questions in regards to accounts payable? Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Thank you. Now we'll move on down to item C, to approve the Carbon County Pacific Purpose Tax Joint Powers Board Representative and alternate. Councilman Singh.
I move to approve the appointment of City Rollins Representative Finance Director Jody McClurkin and alternate Representative Beverly Hammond to the Carbon County Pacific Purpose Joint Powers Board for a 2-year term beginning July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Does anybody have any comment on that, or? Okay. There's no comments or discussion or objection. Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on down to item E, to approve the transfer of ownership retail liquor license number 93 from Cappy's Incorporated to Cappy's J&K Incorporated, doing business as Cappy's Restaurant. Councilman Singer.
I move to approve the transfer of ownership of retail liquor license number 93 from Cappy's Inc. to Cappy's J&K Inc., doing business as Cappy's Restaurant, licensing term of October 21st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021.
Okay, Councilwoman Wells seconds that. Is there any, Councilman Martinez?
Mr. Mayor, I guess my question is, I don't understand, are they moving their license from one establishment to another, or are they just changing names?
And somebody at ownership.
Oh, okay.
One of the family members took over the business.
Okay, I guess that was the question. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or objections to the motion? Okay, Sherry, will you open online voting, please?
closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Thank you, Sharon. Now we'll move on down to executive session. If I can get a motion, Councilwoman Smith.
I move that we go into executive session at 9:49 PM for Wyoming statute 64-4059 for matters confidential by law.
Second. Okay, and I'll correct that, the time shows 9:54.
Oh, my computer.
Oh, going by the one up there.
I'll accept that.
Okay. Alright.
Mine says 9:40.
Oh, does it? Oh, my computer does too. So, pick a clock then. Okay, if there's no objections to that motion, Sherry, would you open online vote, please? Sorry about that, Leonard. I didn't mean to correct you. I was looking at the wall, not the computer.
Hey, you're the mayor.
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. We are in executive session.